And we are on fire watch this morning as we quickly approach 2 million acres burned so far in Oregon and in Washington. And now the Bench and Beachcombe fires have merged together.
The fire started over in this area. Here's Mount Hood, so we're in between those two highways.
3 separate wildfires in Oregon just became one. The Cross-White Fire, the Brewer Fire, the Green Mountain Fire.
From my house, I could see the fire and the smoke finally breaking over the ridge. So that panicked the kids too. So off we went again. Like, we're not waiting for anybody to tell us we're leaving now.
3 individual blazes, each already big enough to be a serious emergency on its own. And over the past few days, they burned toward each other until their edges touched, and they merged into a single, continuous wall of fire. That combined fire now has a number attached to it that is hard to even picture. Nearly 300,000 acres, around 460 square miles of Oregon, burning as one connected incident, only about a third contained. It's called the Roe Creek Complex, and it is now one of the largest active wildfires in the entire United States. An overnight infrared flight confirmed the merger, and confirmed something worse. When the fires combined, the total burned area jumped, and because the perimeter suddenly got so much larger, the overall containment percentage actually dropped. The firefighters didn't lose ground through failure. The math changed under them. 3 fires worth of uncontained edge became 1 fire's problem overnight. And here is the part that should stop you. This is happening in July.
It is July. We're seeing fire conditions that we normally see in August, and that 570,000 plus acres that have burned already now on July 24th, our 10-year average is 600,000.
In Oregon, the fire season isn't supposed to peak until August, sometimes September. July is the warm-up, the stretch where the land dries out and the danger climbs before the worst of it arrives. A 300,000-acre monster is the kind of thing you'd expect to hear about at the end of a punishing season, not near the front of one. The state is hitting its late summer catastrophe numbers weeks ahead of schedule.
So we're already almost at our 10-year average of acres burned in the state.
One official with the Oregon Department of Forestry said it about as plainly as it can be said. Conditions are so dry right now that any small ember could start the next large wildfire. That's not a forecast for next month. That's a description of the ground today. So the real question isn't how big the Roe Creek fire is. We can measure that. It's this. If 3 fires can merge into a 300,000-acre giant in July, with the hottest, driest, most dangerous weeks of the year still ahead, what does August look like? Stay with us, because we deal in real data here, not invented drama. If that's what you're here for, subscribe. We do this every week. Let's walk through exactly what's burning, why fires merged the way these did, and the part almost nobody's talking about, the thing that runs out long before the fires do. Start with how 3 fires become one, because it's not random, and it tells you how dangerous the conditions are. The Roe Creek Complex has been burning near the town of Fossil, in north-central Oregon, since the middle of July, started by lightning. For days it was tracked as a set of separate fires across grass, juniper, and timber, but separate fires in the same dry, wind-driven landscape don't stay separate. Each one throws embers ahead of itself on the wind, burning fragments that land in unburnt fuel and start new spot fires out in front. When 2 fires are close enough, the ground between them is just more fuel waiting, and their spot fires start landing in each other's territory. Eventually the gap closes. The 2 fire fronts meet, the unburnt strip between them ignites all at once, and what were 2 perimeters become one. Do that with 3 fires. Cross-White, Brewer, Green Mountain, all converging, and you don't get 3 times the fire. You get something worse, because a single large fire generates its own weather. The heat rising off a fire that size pulls in wind from all directions, feeding itself, and the bigger it gets, the harder it becomes to get anyone safely in front of it. That's why the containment number fell when they merged. Containment isn't about how much has burned, it's about how much of the fire's edge crews have secured with a line the fire can't cross. 3 medium fires had 3 manageable perimeters. 1 giant fire has 1 enormous perimeter, most of it untouched. The percentage didn't drop because firefighters failed. It dropped because the job got bigger overnight, and the same crews were suddenly responsible for far more uncontrolled edge than they'd been holding the day before. There's a second danger in a merger that doesn't show up in the acreage. When two fire fronts collide, the air between them does violent things. The fire can suddenly intensify, throw up towering columns of smoke that collapse, and send wind and embers in unpredictable directions, and behave in ways that are genuinely dangerous to the people fighting it. A merging fire isn't just bigger. For a period, it's less predictable, and predictability is the one thing firefighters depend on to stay safe. Nearly 300,000 acres, around a third contained. That's the headline fire, but it is very far from the only one. Because the thing about Oregon right now is that Roe Creek isn't alone. Statewide, the total area burning has been running past 1 million acres, an area larger than the state of Rhode Island, across dozens of fires at the same time. And two of them matter as much as the big one, for a specific reason. They're the ones threatening where people actually live. The first is the Bench Fire, 4 miles from the town of Warm Springs, on the reservation of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs. It started the same week, and it has been the most stubborn fire in the state. As of the latest update, it had burned more than 45,000 acres, and was still at 0% containment. 5 days in. The fire is described as showing active to extreme behavior, and the entire community of Warm Springs was placed under a level 3 evacuation order, which in Oregon means one thing: go now. The fire jumped the Deschutes River, opened multiple fronts on the town at once, and destroyed at least 6 homes and 5 other buildings. The tribal council declared a state of emergency and issued a boil water notice. Firefighters saved the majority of homes, real work by real people through the night. But a fire at 0% containment throwing new fronts at a town is being survived, not controlled. The second is the Grasshopper Fire, burning in the Mount Hood National Forest in Hood River and Wasco counties. It passed 15,000 acres, sat at 0% containment, and, the detail that matters, its level 3 go now evacuations were still expanding as of the latest reports. Bench and Roe Creek are enormous, but Grasshopper is the one that was still actively pushing into new populated ground. And behind those three, a long tail: the Akawa Butte Fire near Sisters, the Hagen Fire in Umatilla County where evacuations were just increased, and more. Each one, in a normal year, would be the top story on its own. This year they're footnotes to a statewide siege. Now I have to be honest with you, because this is where a lot of channels would tell you the whole state is doomed, and that's not what the picture shows. Some of these fires are being won. The Hay Creek complex, which had burned around 180,000 acres, reached 90% containment. The Hogue and Cottonwood fires hit 100%, fully contained. Several counties were able to lower or lift evacuation orders as conditions improved in their areas. A couple of the smaller fires were completely wrapped up and handed back to local crews. That matters, and it's the honest half of the story. The firefighting effort is not failing across the board. In a lot of places, containment lines are holding, and the fires are being brought under control exactly the way they're supposed to be. But look closely at which fires are contained and which aren't, because the pattern is the whole point. The fires getting wrapped up are, broadly, the ones out in open, remote country. The fires still sitting at 0%, Bench, Grasshopper, are the ones next to towns, in rugged terrain, where crews have to fight defensively to protect structures instead of aggressively to build line. The contained fires aren't the story. The ones that won't contain are the ones with people in front of them. That's not a coincidence. That's where the danger concentrates, and it's where the resources get stretched thinnest. Which brings us to the part almost nobody covering this is saying out loud, and it's the most important thing in this video. The fires are not the scarcest thing in this story. Firefighters are. There is a finite number of trained wildland firefighters, a finite number of engines and dozers and water tenders, and a very finite number of the aircraft that drop water and retardant from above. When one fire breaks out, you surge everything to it. When 2 break out, you split. When dozens ignite across one state in the same week, while other western states are burning, while smoke from Canada is already pulling crews thin, you hit a hard wall. There are simply not enough people and machines to fully staff every fire at once. You can see it in the assignment numbers if you know where to look. A fire approaching 300,000 acres, like Roe Creek, was being worked with around 1,400 personnel and a single listed aerial resource. 1. For a fire that size. And on report after report from these incidents, the same phrase repeats: additional resources remain on order. On order, meaning they've asked for more, and more isn't there yet, because it's on another fire that needs it just as badly. This is the real ceiling on a season like this. Not the weather. The weather does what it does. The ceiling is capacity. And when capacity runs out, the strategy shifts from stopping fires to simply standing between the flames and the houses and letting the rest of the fire run where it will. That's not failure. It's triage. It's what you do when there's more fire than there are hands. And every one of those hands belongs to a person who's been on the line for weeks already, in a season that started early. The crews are the resource that wears out, and the calendar says the hardest part hasn't come yet. Which is why this particular fire event is worth your attention over any single dramatic blaze. In a normal year, Oregon's fire season is a curve. It builds through July, peaks in August, and eases into September as the weather finally turns. The worst weeks are supposed to be the August weeks, the deepest, driest point of the season, when one bad wind event can do the most damage. This year, the state blew past 1 million acres and watched 3 fires merge into a 300,000-acre giant before that curve reached its top. That's what August-like conditions in July really means. Oregon isn't at its worst right now. It's already posting numbers it normally wouldn't see for weeks, while the conditions are still, technically, getting drier. The firefighting capacity is already drawn down, the crews are already tired, the fuel is already primed, and the calendar hasn't reached the part of the year that historically does the most damage. None of that is a promise that August will be catastrophic. Weather can shift. A wet system, a break in the wind, an early turn in the season could take the pressure off. And I'm not going to tell you the worst is guaranteed, because it isn't. Fire seasons have surprised people in the good direction before. But the honest reading of where things stand is this. Every ingredient that merged 3 fires into a monster in July is still in place. And the part of the year that usually makes those ingredients worse is still ahead. That's not doom, it's arithmetic. And it's exactly why the people who do this for a living are watching the next few weeks the way they are. And there's a reason to take that arithmetic seriously, because Oregon has been here before, and it went badly. In recent years, the state has seen fire seasons that scorched over 1 million acres, and, in the worst of them, took lives and leveled whole towns. And those seasons did their heaviest damage in late summer and early fall, exactly the window this year hasn't reached yet. The difference this time isn't that the fire is unprecedented, it's the timing. Getting to these numbers in July, rather than September, means the dangerous window is longer, not shorter, and the resources meant to carry the state through that window are already being spent. Let me be clear about the shape of this before we close, because a story like this attracts noise. The fires merging is not a sign of some coordinated event. Fires converge because they're close together in dry, windy conditions. It's physics, not a plot. And the dozens of separate fires across the state don't share a cause, they share a condition. Roe Creek was lightning. Others are still under investigation. What they have in common is a landscape dried into fuel, not a hidden hand lighting them. 24 fires in a drought is what a primed landscape does when enough sparks meet it. And it is not a reason to panic if you're nowhere near it. Outside the fire zones, the real impact is smoke and air quality, worth taking seriously if you have heart or lung conditions, but not the emergency the people under level 3 orders are living tonight. For anyone near it, central, eastern, or north-central Oregon, anywhere under an advisory, the guidance is the same every time. Know your evacuation level, and know it can change in minutes. At Warm Springs, the levels changed faster than the sheriff's office could post them. If you're told level 3, you go immediately without stopping to pack, because the fire that jumped the Deschutes did not wait for anyone. Have a bag ready before you're told. Sign up for your county's alerts. And check road conditions before you drive. In this event, fire has been closing highways, including a 30-mile stretch of Interstate 84. 3 fires merged into one, nearly 300,000 acres, in July, with the worst of the season still on the calendar. Some of Oregon's fires are being brought under control, the ones near its towns are not. And the thing that decides how this ends isn't the weather, it's how many hands there are to stand between the flames and the people. This year, that number was stretched thin before the hardest month even began. If this made the scale of what's happening in Oregon clearer, subscribe. We track these events as they unfold, and if this season turns the way the conditions suggest it might, you'll hear about it here. And tell us in the comments, are you in Oregon right now, or downwind of it? How's the air, and how close is it to you? A lot of you are living this tonight, and we read every reply. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.